Welcome to The Actor's Choice, where the actors and actresses have a chance to talk about themselves and their careers. Join us now for the next hour as we explore the marvelous industry of acting by actors and actresses from today's exciting show business world. And now, direct from Hollywood, here's your host, Ron Brewington.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ron Brewington, and welcome to The Actor's Choice. Before we start today's episode, I'd like to take a moment in memory of a longtime dear friend, Tanya Kersey. She passed last Monday at the age of 61. She was well known here as an influencer, founder, executive director of Hollywood Black Film Festival, where she was responsible for the overall organization, management, and administration of one of the leading Black film festivals in the world. Now, she battled congestive heart failure, Graves' disease, and kidney failure. As a result, she was uninsurable and had no life insurance because of her health issues. Now, a GoFundMe page has been created to support funeral costs. Just check our website and get information on how to do it. She's survived by her two daughters, Monique and Brittany. We'd like to dedicate today's episode in memory of Tanya Kersey. May she rest in peace. Thank you. Roll it, Tony. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest today is a lady I've known and admired for a long, long time. She writes plays, guess what? A whole lot of them. So, she's been around. She's an actress. She does films. Just a marvelous, marvelous lady. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sharon L. Graine. Greetings, Sharon.
Thank you. Hi. How you doing?
I'm beautiful. I'm alive.
You're looking awful handsome.
Suave and debone is what we call it. Glad to have you back on our show. First, because you've been on it about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. First of all, where were you from, for the benefit of our audience? Where were you born?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois. I was blessed enough to be raised in two places at the same time, Ron. I was raised in Chicago, Illinois, and Racine, Wisconsin, which is about an hour and a half away. So I would be in Racine during my school time, and on my vacation time, the summer and all of that, I would be with my mom, dad, and brothers and sisters.
Okay, so you were a traveler.
I was traveling, and I was thinking the other day, one of the major reasons that I write only pre-1940 plays is because of that foundation there in Chicago. My dad used to be a saxophone player, and one of his favorite artists was Sonny Stitt. And we would sit in the summer, and my mom and dad would talk to us about the stories. Well, my mom went to, now some of your audience may not be familiar with these people. If not, look them up, because they're really geniuses that came before us. People like Joe Williams. My mom went to school, and she was telling us what, the kids her age thought about his age. Dorothy Donegan. Famous jazz pianist, played all over the world for the Queens, everything. And Mom said the funny thing about Dorothy was she was supposed to be a classical pianist, but when she'd be playing and the teacher would leave the room, then she'd start playing jazz. Then there was Lorez Alexandria, and she was a great, great jazz singer. Well, my girlfriend lived down the street from somebody that her father said, we better not go to that woman's house and disturb her in any way. She lived on 83rd in Indiana, and my grandfather used to say to me, Sharon, your head is as hard as a rock. Well, the lady would be out of town a lot. So I would, walk up and down the street and try to figure out when to ring the doorbell just to ask her a question. And I finally did it one day, and that lady's name was Mahalia Jackson. And I asked her, how do you do this? And she wasn't that thrilled to have me at the door, but she was very polite.
Gotcha.
And then the first time I ever went on stage was when I was 7 years old. I went to this concert with my mom at what's called the Regal Theater. Rob, where are you from?
Me,
Uh-huh.
my mama.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, if your mama was anywhere near Chicago, you would know the Regal Theater.
I was born and raised in Harlem.
Oh, okay. But then but I know you know the Regal Theater anyway, because that's where all the Motown everybody went through. Well, I was the only kid in the audience, and so this lady brought me up on stage, and I really kind of feel bad about this to this day. She sang me a song, and the whole time she sang the song, I was crying. But her name was Pearl Bailey. So I got to learn about all of these people prior to coming to California. When I came to California, Dorothy had already moved here. She was my godmother. Lorez had already moved here. She was my godmother. Marla Gibbs, my cousin, had already moved here. Then I had people that were already living here. So that was kind of the foundation of me starting in the business that I'm in.
Okay. How many plays have you written?
I've written 30 some plays. How many plays of the plays that I've written have been seen? About 12. Yeah.
There was one, let's show just a few of you, some of the work that you did. One of the first ones you did was Moment to Moment.
Moment to Moment. Moment to Moment is a fun situation where you can go back and take a historical look at the talk shows of the 50s and the 40s, when they would sit down and they would interview people. They would sit on the couch, and then they had a screen, and you would go into their home and they would do an interview. So I was trying to do that as closely as I can, and we would interview great people from Vincent Price to whoever, and then they would get up and perform. It was just a fun thing to do.
Okay. Hattie McDaniel.
Hattie McDaniels is a really interesting story about her, because Hattie was such a outspoken woman. And so when I was learning about Hattie and her dialogue and how she had to work with men to fight for her position, and Hattie had alternative lifestyles as well, it just made sense to do something about her from her perspective. On those plays, I tried to go and get as much of their own dialogue or whatever it is that they said themselves and incorporate it in the play. And yes, I was criticized once because they said I didn't really put down the way Hattie talked. And I said, well, I think people can understand without me using the language.
Okay. Benches, sketches of the 1930s.
Now, Benches is a series of plays that I wrote where you can see more than one at a time. In fact, one is going to be coming up very soon, and it's about Marian Anderson. And Marian Anderson, when she was growing up, she was a very church-going lady. And the play takes place in a park. It takes place in Washington, D.C., right before Marian Anderson is getting ready to go on and sing. But she talks about everything she went through. She's sitting there talking to her girlfriend in the park. She sings some opera. She talks about how the community raised money for her to go overseas. A lot of our Black performers were more welcome overseas than they were here. And so they would go over there and make a name for herself. And so she's one of the people. Outstanding performance by Sylvia Boyd, who is a jazz singer, but as I tell her all the time, I love hearing her do her opera better.
Here's one you might think about. When Divas Were Divas, remembering their lives their way.
Okay, when Divas Were Divas, we were blessed enough to take that to the Edinburgh Festival. And usually when I was at Watts Writers Workshop, I had walked off the stage and said, I'll never act again. I want to get into producing, blah, blah, blah. Well, the first play I wrote, my husband got me a theater downtown and said, the only caveat is you must write your own plays and direct them. So when Divas Were Divas was the first play I wrote, it actually was about 8 actresses. I had to take the 3 white ones out because it was a casting problem, but all these ladies knew each other. Lena Horne, Billie Holiday, Betsy Smith, Josephine Baker, Sarah Vaughan. They all knew each other. They all went through the same racial issues. They all had to go through the same fights when it came to getting their record known, their faces on pictures. I just want to say quickly that one of the people that starred as Betsy Smith in the When Divas Was Divas and went to Edinburgh with us was Miss Barbara Morrison. And Barbara was fantastic in the show. And I cannot tell you, I've known Barbara 40 years, how much I miss her. Because she was also my Hattie McDaniel.
Gotcha. Guess what? We just happen to have a short clip. Roll it, Tony.
Yesterday, when they were young, so many happy songs were waiting to be sung. So many wayward pleasures laid in store for them, and so much pain. There.
Now that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I say a little something about that lady there playing Lena Horne. Her name is Londa Parks.
Oh, okay.
And I was sitting in church. I hadn't finished writing the play, and I had not written the opening with whoever it was going to be. And I'm sitting in choir next to this lady, and I do a double take, and I say to her, "You look just like Lena Horne." And she has that sound, and it was like, "Lena Horne." And I said, "Oh no, I'm writing you something in a play." And she said, "Oh no." And I said, "Oh yeah." And she's fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
Sharon, we only have a few more moments. I would like to let people know that all the stuff that you did as working on stage, you also did a film. They called it Donovan Kiatu.
Yes.
Kiate?
Donovan, yeah. That was a wonderful film about this young Black man that was going through trying to find his place. And I was his counselor, trying to explain to him, very much like you. There I am trying to counsel him, very much like you, Ron, with your students when they come in with an array of ideas about what they think life is and how it must have been to them. And I was telling him the truth of how it was really going to go. Don Kiel.
We got time to sneak this one in, the Playhouse Theater. Tell us about it.
Oh, the Playhouse Theater. Now, Ron, I don't know when you went to college. When I went to college, young people, if you're listening to this, they don't give these degrees anymore, but I actually got a degree in something called radio and television. Now it's a communication degree. So when I was in college, I thought, oh man, we would study the whole radio thing about the golden age of radio and what they did before television and how anybody could play a particular role. So in 1991, I started a group that we still have today called the Playhouse Theater Players. Our specialty is the golden age of radio, but all the plays and everything we do is a part of Playhouse Theater Players.
Golden Stage of Radio, because I see that KSLG that you have on your microphone there.
Yes, KSLG. And the wonderful thing about it is the young lady that plays Eartha Kitt also plays Louis Armstrong, because when you're doing radio, you can have that kind of fun. They used to make those kind of changes and stuff. So yes, and we do it with the sound effects and everything. But a quick note on this, when I was saying about young people learning things, when we started doing this in 1991, we would go to senior homes and perform. And I cannot tell you how the seniors went off on us. You can't do the golden age of radio, and you're sitting up there, none of your actors are reading the script, and they're walking away from the mic, and you're supposed to, and you're supposed to. And I thought, and I was writing it down. Okay, that's what we're supposed. And so we learned as we went, and we were blessed enough for people to tell us how to do it right.
Outstanding. Who are some of the persons who influenced you early during your career?
Oh, I'm so glad that you said that, because one of the main persons that influenced me, when I was in Racine, Wisconsin, I was about 11 years old, and an uncle from the South came up. And he said he had this album, and my grandmother said, well, that's a blues album. But we went in the basement, and you being from the East Coast, know all of our basements are made into bars with tables and pool, So I would go in with this album, and the man would tell me all of these stories about this lady and all the horrible things that had happened to her. And I said, yeah, but she's still singing. And she sang this one song called Gloomy Sunday. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
With Shadow. And I would stand in the mirror and sing with this lady. Oh, my man, I love you so. I'm 11 years old. I got a man,
Right.
you know. So that was one of my first influences, because I'm thinking, how could she have gone through all of this and we still know who she is today? Then Dorothy Donegan told me all about working with men, because she was one of the first people that worked in jazz. Larez told me all this stuff. I wish you could have heard Barbara Morrison's stories up and close. And then one of the bigger influencers in my life was Dr. Mamie Clayton. Dr. Mamie Clayton, since I moved to California, was my godmom also. And she's the one that talked me into writing the one play that wasn't in 1940s. She asked me to write a play about Mary Ellen Pleasant, which is from the 1800s. The first, everyone listen to me, the first African-American millionaire. It wasn't C.J. Walker, it was Mary Ellen Pleasant. C.J. Walker was only 5 when Mary Ellen Pleasant became the mother of civil rights in the state of California.
Sharon L. Graine, before we get out of here, we got a young man who put his picture up. This is a guy, you may know him, Chester A. Graine III. Who that means?
Chester A. Graine III is starring in a play that's going, you're going to see Christmas. I think it's December 10th and 11th. It's called 1940s Christmas at Club Suite Lorraine. He is Mr. G.W. He's co-stars in it. You'll see Eartha Kitt there. You'll see Billie Holiday there. You'll see Sarah Vaughan there. All of those people. And over here on this corner,
yep. Right.
My play, you're going to be interviewing this lady a little later on, Shelli Boone, one of the most talented people I've ever worked in my life. She plays my Josephine Baker. She's going to be playing my Dorothy Dandridge with a gentleman by the name of Eugene Alper, and he's actually from Russia. Outstanding. It'll be in January and February, and it's about the life of Dorothy Dandridge.
All right. Sharon, we most sincerely thank you for being our guest today. Please come back again. We only have 17 minutes on the guest, but we would love to have, there's so much more you got to talk about. By the way, stick around, because there's a gentleman who's coming up next, Shakespearean actor.
Oh, I need to get my
got his stuff together.
Thank you so much, Ron. It's always a joy.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Sharon L. Graine. This is the Actor's Choice. I'm your host, Ron Brewington. We would like to let you know that we are asking our people to help us get former baseball player Curt Flood into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, Curt passed away January 20th, 1997. He was the husband of one of our wonderful guests, renowned actress Judy Pace. Now, all you got to do is give us a call, 213-349-3941. That's 213-349-3941. Ladies and gentlemen, we sincerely thank each and every one of you for being a part of this magnificent award for a great baseball player. Brother Tony.
If you can't be a pine on the top of the hill, be a shrub in the valley, but be the best little shrub on the side of the reel. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. You just be the best.
What you just saw, ladies and gentlemen, we're very proud to have this gentleman. He's our next guest today. He's a director, a classically trained Shakespearean actor, voiceover artist, inspirational speaker, master West African drumming, and teacher. Wow, the man's got the credentials. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gerald C. Rivers. Greetings, Gerald, and welcome to the Actor's Choice.
Thank you for having me, Ken.
Oh, you and Martin Luther King. My goodness. How'd you do that? How do you do that?
You know what? That goes beyond acting, I think. That goes into a certain level as an artist of surrender to a power and a belief that is far greater than me. I mean, those teachings are so powerful. And really, I just have to make room as a vessel in my instrument for the spirit of Dr. King to move through me, and that's what that's about. There's no practice, there's no preparation. I've been studying this for, I've been studying King for 30 years. And so by now, I just open my mouth and let what needs to come out come out.
As they say, and it shows. 30
Indeed.
years of trying. Wow.
Thank you.
Folks would like to know, where were you born at, sir?
I was born in Kansas City, Missouri in 1965, but my roots are in Compton, California. I have no memory of Kansas City, Missouri whatsoever. Every childhood memory I have is in Compton, California.
You mean to say you grew up in Compton and lived to talk about it?
Yes, I did. I think there are a few others that did the same thing. There are many that did not. There are many that, particularly in the time that I grew up, I went to a lot of funerals at 16 years old. And by the time I was 19 and going off to college, many of the guys that I hung out with and went to school with were either in jail or in the cemetery. And when I say many, I mean a majority of them.
That movie, Straight Outta Compton, I've seen it over a dozen times. And there's certain sequences that I see in that picture, that I love so dear. Especially when they can't say the right word, the N word, in front of the cops, and they go out there and do it anyway. They say, "What the hell? I'm gonna say it anyway."
Yeah.
Wow.
I think growing up in an environment like that, and Compton is 5 miles wide and 7 miles long, to a certain degree, you think that's the whole world. You think every teenager across the globe is having an experience similar to yours. I saw that film as well, and I really felt like it was an accurate depiction, particularly being harassed by the police. I mean, we were subject to a RICO statute at 14 years old on the streets of Compton. You couldn't gather not more than 2 or 3 young black men on any street corner without being suspected of creating mischief or havoc. And so, but I think that does something to you. I think you're sharpened by the fire and by the steel, so to speak, because you either become stronger or you succumb to it. And there's lots of folks that came out of that environment and that did more than all right. I meet people from Compton all over the world.
There's a guy named Gerald C. Rivers. That's one of them that came out of Compton. Definitely.
Yes, it is. Straight out of Compton.
Straight out of Compton. When did you first start coming of the voice and knowing how to use it?
I was 16 years old, and I got involved with a production called Voices of America. And actually, the production came out of Compton. And it was a guy named Benny Pritchett, I think was his name. And he'd written this piece about significant Black voices in American history. When I first got on the show, I was just a chorus member. I sang and I danced. And there was another actor playing Martin Luther King, but that actor was also playing Frederick Douglass and Malcolm X. And at that time, you could vie for a role. You could say to the directors and the producers, I think I can dance that number better or sing that number better or do that role better. And they give you a shot. And if you did, you got an upgrade. And that's ultimately what happened. I said, well, he's doing X and Frederick Douglass. He doesn't need Martin Luther King. And it was really a little bit of divine intervention because I thought about it, prayed about it, meditated, whatever, and said, this is the role I should go for. And it was very, very clear to me. I had no idea, 40 years later, I would still be doing it. But that's how it started. And I went on tour at 16, and I was in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, Miami. And when I came back, my mom said, how do you go from being in trouble to being on tour? How does that happen? I said, well, I'm in this show and I played Martin Luther King. And she said, well, you do whatever you did at my church. And I did it at her church, and then at the Compton Library, then for the Compton Boy Scouts, then a series of schools and churches. And I'm still to this day visiting schools, churches, colleges and universities, businesses, corporate structures, prisons, juvenile detention facilities, rehab centers, homeless shelters, corporate structures, and government agencies, delivering the words and the works of the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
You came here for a reason. We want to get right to it.
Here, here.
You're in a play right now called Trouble the Water.
I am. We opened on Saturday to an almost packed full house and finished to a rousing standing ovation. I both directed the show and I play the narrator and the character of Robert Smalls, which far too few people know who that is. But he was an enslaved person who ultimately stole a Confederate warship and sold it to Abraham Lincoln in exchange for his freedom and the freedom of his family and his crew and their family. And then he said, not only am I giving you the ship, I'm giving you the weapons, so I need some cash too. And took the cash and bought the plantation that he grew up on. And he and his mom lived out their days, not behind the house, but in the house that they once worked as enslaved people for much of their lives. Part of the myth of the story is that the woman who owned him years later showed up at the house, and she was senile and thought she lived there, and he allowed her to live there until she passed. Robert Smalls goes on to become the first Black elected official in South Carolina, established the Republican Party of South Carolina, and passed the first Civil Rights Act, and got bills passed and established a public school system that we still echo and sort of mimic to this day. And most people have no idea who he is.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. You just put a split up there. We can see you and him. We got a little small video.
Oh, do you?
Hold it, Tony.
I found the docks of Charleston, such busy and full of life. Ships coming and going from all over the world. Men loading and unloading and cursing and sweating and laughing.
Smell of the fish, the oysters, the pie dog, the boats, the salt in the air, the whistle of the steam engine.
The sails, the lines whipping in the wind, the call of seagulls, and the constant rumble of cart cars on the dock, and the war. Always the war.
Gerald, you
Good. I haven't even seen that.
Wow. Yeah, well, you know how Lucy is. You know how she take care of that. But
Yeah.
you just seem like a natural on that stage. So you and I don't want to belabor it, but you and I talked about this. There are a lot of people that are actors, so they say. They'll do television, they'll do film, but they ain't doing no stage.
Yeah, I grew up on the stage. I love working in film and television. It's great work when you can get it, and obviously the pay is significantly better. But my heart, my soul, my roots are in live theater. I got my first degree in theater arts, and I've been doing theater ever since. I've been at the Will Gear Theatricum Botanicum as a company member for 27 years, and this is the first year I'm having the opportunity to direct. And I am the first African-American director in 49 years since the inception of this particular theater. And we chose an incredible piece, and it's a great cast. We have music. There's a group called Street Corner Renaissance with Maurice Kitchen.
Yeah.
They represent our Greek chorus, or African chorus, if you will, singing live all of the music in the show.
Yes, Maurice Kitchen, good man. Good.
Yes, he is.
Good people.
Yes, he
Good
is.
people. We got a couple of photos that we'd like to just show you and let everybody see it. Here's, can you tell us what that one is, sir?
Sure. This is Robert Smalls at the end of his life with his mom, who lived in this house, and his mom, who can remember her connection to Sierra Leone in Africa, and actually brought stories and language and culture in spite of her enslavement. And this is the scene at her passing towards the end of the show.
Okay. Next photo.
This is Robert Smalls' second wife, Annie, and it's a true story. She delivered him the journal of the woman who once owned him, and he found some very interesting things in that journal, which I won't reveal, but this is him and the discovery of what was written from this woman about his mother and where he came from.
Okay. Next photo.
Oh, this is this woman, Tiffany Cody. You got to come see the show to see her. That's the gentleman who plays the young Trouble or the young Robert Smalls. And this is me watching myself fall in love for the first time with a beautiful, powerful, strong woman played by a beautiful, powerful, strong actress.
Next one.
That is Ellen Geer. She's the artistic director at the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum and the oldest daughter of Will Geer himself, who used to be grandpa on the Waltons. And she's not just the artistic director, she is my dear friend. And for her to give me the opportunity to direct this piece in particular out there is nothing short of magic and legendary.
We had the pleasure of having her as a guest on this show. She left behind a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Next photo, please.
That's the theater itself. It's a beautiful space tucked away into the side of a mountain. When Will Geer was blacklisted because of his suspected communist activities during the McCarthy era, he bought this property, and that tree that sits in the middle of the stage, that tree was tall and beautiful, and he said, we're not going to cut that tree down. We're going to build our stage around that tree. So it lives as a permanent structure in the middle of the stage since the theater's inception. And so the place seats about 300, 350 people. There are other seats up high, but that is the outdoor facility that is the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum. So all that foliage in the background, that's real.
Gotcha.
And that becomes part of our set.
Next one, please.
That would be Will Geer himself.
And a telephone number, ladies and gentlemen, for information.
Yeah, that telephone number is directly to the box office for tickets. So the show runs until October 2nd. It's part of a repertory season that includes A Midsummer Night's Dream and The Merry Wives of Windsor, set in the 1950s with a little rock and roll music, and the Tennessee Waltz, I believe.
How can I get a ticket?
That was the telephone number. Or you can go, that telephone number is directly to the box office. Or you can go to theatricum.com. It's www.theatricum.com. And tickets are available. And for a few weeks, for my show in particular, for Trouble the Water, we are doing some pay what you can or pay whatever you want to come and see a show out there. Because we want people to see the show, and we don't want the cost of a ticket to be a barrier to people who need to see this show having the opportunity to do so.
And of course, pandemic protocol is in place.
There is pandemic protocol. I believe they are checking your vaccination status, and masks are worn inside of the theater, even though it's outdoors at night during all performances. Not from the actors, but from the audience.
Gotcha.
But the neat part about this space is that it's the Botanicum as well as the Theatricum. So there's a garden, and people can come and bring their lunch or wine and cheese or snacks and get a picnic table and have a nice meal that you've brought there yourself before you go in and see the show. Can't take the food into the theater, but it's a great way to spend with family and friends, to come out and have a meal and then go in and see an incredible piece of theater.
Okay. We've got just one quick thing before you leave. The title of the play, Trouble the Water. Can you tell us what that means?
Trouble the Water actually comes from the old Negro spiritual, wade in the water, God's going to trouble the water. And it's a book that was written by Rebecca Dwight Bruff, who lives near Charleston, South Carolina, and I believe discovered some of the original journals of Jane McKee, the woman who owned Robert Smalls. She wrote the book, and I did the audiobook. So that's available on Audibles and on Amazon.com. So if you don't want to read the book, you can listen to the entire story of Robert Smalls in Trouble the Water. And because the play is an adaptation of the book, we kept the title Trouble the Water. And we like to think of it as, in the words of John Lewis, us getting into good trouble, reminding people about the truth.
Thank you very, very much for being here today. You brought us a whole lot of good information. I hope that folks will go out and see for a great run. Come by and see the magnificent play, which tells a tremendous story.
A story that needs to be told. And some of the reviews are out already, and they're all good.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerald C. Rivers. God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is the Actor's Choice. I'm Ron Brewington. Roll it, Tony.
I catered a movie you did called Miles Apart. And it was all good until the star complained about the cupcakes and got me fired!
So it is you. Crazy Debbie, what do you want from me?
Admit they're delicious!
I'm not eating that.
Eat the cupcake! Eat the cupcake!
Get out!
Eat the cupcake nugget!
How's it going?
Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest today has been working in Hollywood for over 15 years. And during that time, she's earned nearly 60 IMDb TV and film credits. As we say in the business, not bad, not bad. Not bad. She's also a regular on the film festival circuit, a lover of comedy, which we just showed in there when that door came by. And when I saw it, I said, put that on the screen, bro. This lady's a lover of comedy. Go for it. She started with numerous other actors and actresses. And oh, by the way, she's a storyteller, a dreamer, and a doer.
Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shelli Boone. Shelli Boone. Greetings, Shelli, and welcome to the Actor's Choice.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out today like we were set up. And we're going to send a copy of this show to you. And I swear to God, when Sharon told me that you were available, I went, please send her, please. Now,
well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
You're everywhere. You're everywhere. You got your hands in this and that. We'll talk about it as we're going in. Would you please tell our audience, where were you born at?
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And then my mother was in the military, so we moved around a lot. And I mostly grew up in the DC area. So that's what I claim. But I've been in LA for 20 years, so I'm a Cali girl now.
Go ahead with your bad self, as they say. And when you say Norfolk, you know they say in Norfolk, we don't drink. I ain't gonna say no more than that. You know what I'm talking about. I was in the Navy for about 20 odd years, and so I had a chance to go to San Diego and Norfolk, as they call it.
Yes. My grandfather was in the Navy, and my mom was a commander in the Navy, so she's a strong lady. Yeah.
I know you're all proud. Okay, this is my question. What made you get into acting?
Well, you know what? Ever since I was little, like even elementary school, I did plays. My mom would take me to summer theater camps, workshops. Even when we lived in DC and I was a teenager, I would go audition on Broadway. I never booked anything, but I did get callbacks, and then we would stay overnight, and then my mom would be like, you might get this one, but I do credit her with being very supportive, taking me to a lot of shows. I saw my first show when I was 5 on Broadway. I saw The Wiz with Stephanie Mills, and so from a young age, I just loved theater, and then that just segued into working in film and TV. I thought I was going to be a newscaster when I went to college in Hampton, because I was like, that's on TV, but I didn't really like doing the news that much. So
at least you found out about it and moved in somewhere. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Better to have it get away instead of hanging around your neck. Get away.
Exactly.
Many things to do. Many things. Remember when you were in college, they said, "What's your major?" Well, by the time you got out of school, most people have changed their major several times.
A lot. And you might reinvent yourself. I might reinvent myself again. We all reinvent ourselves a million times. And that's okay.
Shelli, you're all right with me. Question. What kind of roles do you like to look for?
The ones that pay.
The
ones that pay.
Funny you should mention it. I had a guest on the show a few weeks ago, and he brought that up. He said, well, because I have a bone to pick with actors and actresses. They come here to Hollywood, they'll work on television, they'll work on film, but they won't do stage.
Oh.
And she said, the way we break it down, doing on stage work is for training, but the other two are for money.
Right,
You're
right,
right.
right,
You're
right,
so
right,
right.
right. But I mean, I actually, you know, people are like, oh, I like doing drama, or I like doing comedy, or I like doing this, or I love it all. Like, to be perfectly honest with you, I love it all. And I love doing stage work. I mean, I run a theater and I really like it. And I just, that is where you shine as an actor. Like, really, that is your other guest was completely correct. That is where you get your chops. That is where, you know, I did a one woman show, and that is when I knew I had the goods. And I always urge everybody, like, do a one person show, because that will show you what you're made of. If you can hold an audience in the palm of your hand for an hour and a half, 2 hours, you can do anything. You can do anything.
Yeah, it was 2004. You got your first IMDb credit for a movie called Tied Up.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow, that was quite a journey. That was quite a ride. You know, a lot of movies that you do in the beginning. But like I said, I always say I'll be the Samuel L. Jackson of movies, because he'd do a movie here, a movie there, so many movies. And that was my first movie, and it was interesting. That was like a mix of horror, teenage horror, thriller. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Fast forward to 2022. How do you do? Here you are in a photo called All American Homecoming.
Woo! I love this show, y'all. The showrunner is a Black woman, Nkechi Carroll. She is amazing. She has 3 shows on TV right now. She has All American Homecoming, she has All American, and she just got a new show on NBC called Found. And that set is so amazing. Like, just to be on set with all, I mean, like, the whole cast is Black. Most of the crew is Black. The showrunner is Black. It's just like awesome. All the writers are amazing. Like, it has been a real blessing to be working on that show. And it is, I can't rave about it enough. It is so fun. It is so fun. And I get to play Tina Hicks. She is just, I try to channel Diane Carroll from Dynasty when I'm playing her, because she is just a badass woman. Like, she just, oh yeah.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. We can take that.
Yeah,
take one more.
She really is. She's the boss, and she doesn't take no stuff from nobody. So I love playing her.
By the way, just because we knew you were coming, roll it, Tony. We got a cut for you.
We can all agree the kids did something impulsive.
Simone does not indulge impulses or suffer fools. Apparently she does.
Neither of you are helping. Jordan, Simone, this is your life. Marriage isn't something to be taken lightly.
No.
If you let me finish, I was going to ask what you two want. You want to stay married?
Want to stay married? I like the way he said that. Interesting. The year was 2022. You had another film that you did called Sia, S-I-A.
Oh,
Sia?
yes. Sia, yes.
Oh, Sia, okay.
Yes, Sia. So that is a film by Ashley Shine. She's a up-and-coming Black female director, also gay director, and that's an LGBT film about, it's very interesting because she wrote it during COVID, and it was about like losing someone during COVID and just all the things that woulda, coulda, shoulda been if it hadn't been for COVID. And it's a great film. It's really beautiful, very well put together, beautifully shot. And it's interesting because people call it political, you know? It's a love story, really, but you know, if you start mentioning anything about government or anything like that, people are like, "Ooh, it's political." It's political, but it was fun to work.
Got you. Like I said, I see you like doing stage. Here's another one for you, the Dorothy Dandridge Affair.
Woo! One of my favorites of all time, and it's coming back soon. We're gonna do it in Santa Monica, honey. And oh man, this one was so. We started this out working with Miss Sharon Graine, who taught me everything I know about directing, putting on shows. Like when I first went to her, I was just a little young thing. My legs was shaking, my knees was knocking. I didn't know how to sing. I didn't know how to do nothing. I was like, mold me, Sharon. And she truly brought it all out of me. And we got nominated for NAACP awards with this show. Sang, acted with a wonderful man who plays Otto Preminger, named wonderful actor named Eugene Alper. And we are bringing it back. And I think that this is a great portrayal of Dorothy Dandridge, and Sharon really wrote it well, because we know about the Halle Berry Dorothy Dandridge, of course. Right. And then now we know the, other portrayals, but we don't know this relationship with Otto Preminger. So I think that is a different twist on it that people don't know a lot about, and it's a really great show. So I'm excited to be putting it up again.
You're playing the role of
Dorothy Dandridge.
Oh, can sing. Look at this. Hey. Sing. Go ahead, Shelli. Go ahead. 2 minutes. All right, here we go. You ready? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When divas were divas, remembering their lives their way.
Ooh, when divas were divas.
That's you on the left side. Is that you?
Yes, that's me on the left playing Josephine Baker. That's Sharon in the middle, and then that is playing she was playing Sarah Vaughan. Sarah Vaughan on the right.
Gotcha.
And we have had a great.
Okay.
Wait, on the right. We took it to Scotland for the Fringe Festival, and people raved about it, loved it. But I played Josephine Baker, who is another just wonderful woman, diva, activist, fighter, just everything. So, and I researched her a lot, just fell in love with her. I learned a little French, for the role. And I just love doing that show. And the great thing about Sharon shows is that you can always revisit them. They never die, because the history never dies. These divas never die. Their legacy never dies. So it's always relevant. And that's what I really love. Just letting people know about who paved the way for the Beyoncés and the Rihannas and everybody. These ladies.
We got a few more minutes left. We got time to talk about Willie Agee Playhouse.
Yes, the Willie Agee Playhouse in Inglewood. It's inside Edward Vinton Park. I love it. It's actually been around since the 70s, but Mr. Agee, God bless him, rest in peace. He passed away from COVID in 2020, but he was a park commissioner who fought to get it reopened. So actually the Forum, the same people who did the Forum, revitalized it, remodeled it. We are back open. We just finished a theater camp for kids. Now we're doing a whole program the first week of August for August Wilson. We have monologues, we have workshops, we have readings, we have all different things for August Wilson. But it's also community theater where you can bring your work. If you want to put up your shows, your writing, your work, that's what I love about it, is that it's for the community. So Willie Agee Playhouse in Edward Vinton Park, Inglewood, we do have the arts. So come on down.
15 years ago, I did a play. I was the executive producer of a play. What's his name? Can't think of his name. Fox. Foxy, the photographer.
Yes.
He was the executive producer. We had a play called The One, the guy named Dash Hadu. I got it on my wall there.
Oh, yeah.
Like you say, that theater is there. Here you are in the park in this nice little small theater.
Yes, it's
nice place to be, people. If you want to learn some acting, listen to what she's saying. How can people get in touch with you if they need to?
If they need to, I'm on Instagram, Shelli Boone. I also have my website, shelliboone.com. So, hey, it's right there, honey. It's right there for the taking.
One more quick thing before we get out of here. I Tape LA.
Ooh, I Tape LA. It is founded by my partner, Crystal Lee Brown. She's also another awesome actor. She's on All American Homecoming as well. And we tape and coach actors, and we have actors. I'm an acting coach, and I have a client right now. Her movie's coming out with Idris Elba. She's playing Idris Elba's daughter in Beast. My other client, she plays Will Smith's daughter in Emancipation. Like, we are out here making these people working with you, making sure that you feel confident and are turning in the best auditions that you can to book this work. And I'm so proud of the work that we do.
Shelli, so glad to meet you. Lady, you are a real professional. And please do come back again.
Always. Thank you so much, Ron. And thank you for
pleasure.
what you're doing. Is showcasing, all of this talent that we have out here. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shelli Boone. Shelli Boone. I want to thank our sponsors, Harvey Brandman, Photography is an Art, Ron Irwin's Lose Life, The Way to Lose Weight, Larry Buford's book To the Future, Time Travel, Message in a Capsule, State Farm agent Carla Greene, and veteran actor Rob Brownstein's Actor Training School and Actor Space. Much thanks to our guest today, actress, producer, director Sharon L. Graine, actor, voice director, actor Gerald C. Rivers, and last but certainly not least, actress Shelli Boone. And of course, special thanks to our ever-growing audience. We say be well. We will see you the next time